On a stormy evening, Mike Inslin finds himself drenched as he hurries into a hotel. A writer by profession, Mike pens guidebooks of a peculiar nature. They detail his experiences in purportedly haunted locations across various cities. His work, however, exudes skepticism, showcasing his disbelief in the paranormal. Upon this visit, he engages the hotel owner, probing about their most infamous haunted room. After some reluctance, the owner hands over the key to room 14. As Mike enters the room, his demeanor clearly indicates his skepticism towards the supernatural. He meticulously scans the room with his detection equipment, but when nothing out of the ordinary surfaces, weariness overcomes him, and he drifts into sleep. The subsequent day heralds a fresh agenda for Mike, a book signing event. As he engages with the modest crowd, he passionately discusses his views, particularly his skepticism about paranormal occurrences. In the midst of this, a young girl approaches him presenting a vintage copy of one of his books. Contrary to his current works, this book delved into heartfelt narratives. The girl is particularly moved by a segment that portrays a father-daughter relationship, questioning its authenticity. Though Mike denies it, his countenance hints at a deeper truth. After the event, Mike returns to his residence in Los Angeles, eager to indulge in some surfing. As he's catching waves, a helicopter hovers above, towing a banner. But as Mike strains to decipher the message, a colossal wave engulfs him. Despite the near-drowning experience, he manages to pull through. Once on shore, his next stop is the post office to retrieve his mail. Among the pile, a postcard stands out from the Dolphin Hotel, bearing a stark warning about room 1408. Intrigued, Mike reaches out to the hotel only to be informed that the room is perpetually unavailable. Determined, Mike resorts to online research about the room. He's met with a chilling discovery. Numerous individuals have met their untimely end in room 1408, leading to its prolonged closure. In a subsequent scene, Mike reaches out to his publisher, Sam, inquiring about the Dolphin Hotel. Sam informs him of a law stipulating that if a room is vacant, it cannot be withheld from a potential guest, and Mike has grounds for a lawsuit if denied. Armed with this information, Mike heads to New York. Upon arrival, he hails a cab that takes him straight to the Dolphin Hotel. As he surveys the premises, nothing particularly ominous stands out. Soon, he approaches the reception desk. The moment he expresses his desire to book room 1408, the receptionist's demeanor changes drastically, prompting her to usher him to the manager, Gerald. In the confines of Gerald's office, the manager inquires about the duration of Mike's intended stay in the infamous room. Mike confidently states his intention to spend the night, but Gerald counters by divulging that no guest has ever endured more than an hour in that room. He further intensifies the ominous atmosphere by revealing that 56 individuals have met their demise within those walls. Gerald then presents Mike with a diary chronicling the tragic incidents tied to room 1408, firmly suggesting Mike abstain from staying there. Yet Mike's resolve remains unshaken, viewing the room as potential fodder for his next book. His persistence eventually pays off as a reluctant Gerald hands over the key to room 1408. The duo then journey to the 14th floor via the elevator. Once the doors part, they go their separate ways. Mike, while navigating the corridor, peruses Gerald's diary. The surroundings initially appear mundane, with even a housekeeper crossing his path. Yet an underlying tension is palpable. Arriving at room 1408, Mike gains entry, immediately commencing his documentation via a tape recorder. He observes aloud that the room is rather lackluster, contrary to its infamous reputation. However, the sudden blare of a song from the radio jolts him. To his surprise, 2 chocolates lie invitingly on his pillow. He indulges in one, momentarily distracted by ambient noises, which he dismisses as hotel staff antics to deter him. Yet the room soon unveils its true nature. The temperature inexplicably soars despite Mike's frantic attempts to regulate the thermostat. Overwhelmed, he contacts the hotel's operator requesting maintenance assistance. Once off the phone, curiosity compels him to scan the room with UV lights. To his horror, previously unseen bloodstains now mar the room, revealing its macabre past. Shortly after, a knock resonates from the door and a mechanic stands at the threshold. Mike, filled with anticipation, opens the door, but to his surprise, the mechanic adamantly refuses to step into the room, expressing genuine fear for his well-being. Offering a workaround, the mechanic instructs Mike on how to remedy the malfunctioning thermostat. With diligent adherence to the provided guidance, Mike succeeds in stabilizing the room's temperature. But as he turns to express his gratitude, the mechanic is mysteriously absent. Suddenly, the room's radio springs to life, blaring a song at an uncomfortably loud volume. Even more unsettling, the radio's clock begins a countdown, starting at 60 minutes. An unnerving, high-pitched sound pierces the air, causing Mike to momentarily lose his sense of hearing. He rushes to the window, seeking respite. Although traffic buzzes below, the only sound Mike perceives is the ear-piercing noise from the room. Without warning, the window slams shut, trapping and injuring Mike's hand in the process. He hurriedly heads to the bathroom to attend to his injury. But as he attempts to wash his wound, scalding water bursts forth from the faucet, further injuring him. Returning to the main room, Mike tends to his hand, only for the haunting melody of "We've Only Just Begun to Fill the Room." In frustration, he unplugs the radio, yet the countdown persists. It dawns on Mike that he's in a dire situation. Hastily, he attempts to gather his belongings and exit the room. In a stroke of misfortune, the door key snaps and the doorknob falls off. Panic sets in, and he directs his energy towards forcing the door open with powerful kicks. Unsuccessful. He makes his way to the window, desperately crying out for help. His eyes meet the gaze of a man in a neighboring building. Heartbreakingly, Mike realizes he's looking at his own reflection. As he watches, a chilling apparition approaches his reflected image, brandishing a knife. Horrified, Mike spins around to confront the figure, but finds himself alone, fueling his belief that he's suffering hallucinations. In his bid to comprehend his disorienting experiences, a memory surfaces. Gerald, the hotel manager, had offered him a drink prior to his entry into room 1408. Suspecting the beverage to be tainted and recalling the chocolate he'd consumed, Mike wonders if he's been drugged, leading to his distressing visions. As Mike grapples with his thoughts, the room's television activates, displaying a tender moment between him, his ex-wife Lily, and their daughter Katie. Overcome with emotion, Mike reaches out, attempting to touch his daughter's image. Yet, the TV abruptly powers down. A baby's cries emanate from an adjoining room. Clinging to hope, Mike believes a mother and her child might be his salvation. He desperately bangs on the wall, pleading for assistance. Regrettably, Mike's efforts to seek help only intensify his ordeal. The sound of the baby's cries escalates, reaching an overwhelming volume that leaves Mike reeling. In a frenzied moment, he hurls a chair at the wall, managing to silence the cries. But what he witnesses next sends chills down his spine. Blood starts to seep from the fractured wall, making it seem as though he had struck a living being. In a subsequent scene, Mike scrutinizes the hotel's floor plan, realizing there are multiple rooms adjacent to his. With the door to his room firmly sealed, he resolves to climb out the window, hoping to attract attention and assistance. Carefully, he navigates the narrow building ledge. As he progresses, a horrifying revelation dawns on him. There appear to be no other rooms besides 1408. Panic sets in and he turns to retrace his steps. En route, a spectral woman emerges, nearly causing him to plummet. Glimpsing the woman's tragic fate on the ledge, Mike makes his way back to his room. No sooner has he entered than the window snaps shut of its own accord. Examining the floor plan once again, Mike's confusion mounts. It's altered, showing solely his room, with the remainder of the hotel rendered in opaque black. And perplexingly, the actual layout of room 1408 has shifted. Doors and windows have been replaced by impenetrable concrete walls. Grasping for a semblance of reality, Mike replays his earlier recordings. What he hears further unsettles him. Even his recording attests to the room's haunted nature. Desperate for a lifeline, Mike rummages through his belongings, unearthing a laptop. He connects to the internet and initiates a video call with Lily. With palpable distress, he informs her of his bizarre entrapment and implores her to alert the police to his situation in room 1408 of the Dolphin Hotel. However, mid-conversation, the room's sprinklers spring to life, inundating the space and short-circuiting the laptop, along with other electronic devices. In the aftermath, as Mike manages to shut off the sprinklers, the room undergoes another ominous transformation, plunging into a biting cold. Mike resorts to igniting various objects in an attempt to fend off the freezing temperatures. As he teeters on the brink of succumbing, a sudden call comes through on his laptop, which against all odds has restored itself. Lily's voice offers a glimmer of hope, conveying that the police have arrived at room 1408. In a shocking twist, Lily informs Mike that the room he described is utterly vacant. However, the conversation takes an eerie turn when the laptop starts to malfunction. A spectral version of Mike emerges on the screen, beckoning Lily to join him in room 1408, a clear indication of sinister intentions. Mike, the real one, frantically tries to deter Lily from heading to the room, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Suddenly, chaos ensues. Objects in the room shatter, the walls fracture, spewing debris everywhere. Torrential rain pours down when Mike strikes a painting depicting a ship, flooding the room. As the water level rises, Mike finds himself in a desperate struggle to keep from drowning. Spying a light overhead, he pushes through, swimming with all his might. Astonishingly, he emerges onto a familiar beach scene. Above, a helicopter hovers, dragging behind it a banner advertising life insurance, with a phone number ending in 1408. Regaining consciousness, Mike discovers he's in a hospital located in Los Angeles. By his bedside is Lily, radiating concern and comfort. Eager to make sense of his ordeal, Mike recounts the harrowing experience at the Dolphin Hotel's room 1408, but Lily's reaction stuns him. She has no knowledge of such a hotel. In the following days, Mike and Lily attempt to rekindle their relationship, giving it another shot. During a quiet dinner, a waitress briefly morphs into the haunting apparition Mike had encountered in room 1408. He's shaken but soon recognizes it as a mere figment of his imagination. To process and cope with the trauma, Mike begins to chronicle his terrifying experience in room 1408. Once he finishes his manuscript, he sets out to publish it. Intent on mailing the manuscript to his New York-based publisher, Mike heads to the post office. However, as he's informed of the post office's closure for the day, he's taken aback. The face of the man behind the counter is all too familiar. It's the bellboy from the Dolphin Hotel. In a dizzying turn of events, the post office interior is ravaged by its occupants, and Mike finds himself thrust back into the cursed room 1408. The chilling realization dawns on him. The past week, with all its semblance of normalcy, had been but a dream. He remains ensnared in the hotel room, which now lies in shambles. His torment heightens when his daughter appears, addressing him affectionately and pleading for assistance. Mike's heart aches. He's painfully aware that he's hallucinating, but the pull to embrace his daughter is too strong. It's then revealed that the tragic demise of their daughter, Katie, who succumbed to cancer, had driven a wedge between Mike and Lily in the past. Inside the room, Mike promises Katie that they'll always be together as a family and that no force can separate them. Yet, this assurance is short-lived as Katie tragically dies in his embrace. Distraught, Mike exclaims, "You can't take her twice." Suddenly, the room is filled with blaring music from the radio. As it plays, Katie's body breaks apart, turning into concrete rubble. Overwhelmed by grief and anger, Mike frantically starts to destroy everything in sight. Amid this chaos, a timer on the radio ominously counts down. As the clock strikes 0, the scene transitions. Mike finds himself in the untouched version of room 1408. The decor is immaculate and there's no sign of the previous devastation. A clock begins its countdown again, signaling that Mike is ensnared in a never-ending cycle of torment. The room's telephone jolts him with its ring. When he answers, he confronts the operator, demanding to know why he isn't just killed outright. The response is chilling. He can continue reliving this hellish hour or choose to end his life. Concurrently, Mike stumbles upon graves that bear his and Katie's names. The grim realization dawns on him. The room's malevolent intent is to drive its occupants to take their own lives. As the conversation continues, the operator inquires if Mike wishes to check out. While Mike initially declines, a mention of his wife's impending arrival fills him with dread. In a desperate bid to save her and end the room's tyranny, Mike spots a bourbon bottle. Without hesitation, he crafts a Molotov cocktail, ignites it, and hurls it against the wall. The room quickly becomes an inferno. The hotel's fire alarm blares, causing widespread panic. On her arrival, Lily informs the police of Mike's location in room 1408. Inside, as flames surge, Mike calmly smokes a cigarette. With a manic laugh, he revels in the belief that he's ending the room's curse. The narrative takes a mournful turn, revealing Mike's funeral proceedings. Lily, consumed with grief, delivers a moving eulogy, expressing hope that Mike and Katie are finally united in the afterlife. As the ceremony concludes, Gerald, the Dolphin Hotel's manager, offers Lily a box of Mike's personal effects. Seeking closure, she declines the offer. Later, as Gerald sits in his car, curiosity leads him to a tape recorder from the box. Playing it, he's met with the harrowing sounds of Mike's last moments and Katie's eerie cries. To his horror, a reflection in the mirror reveals Katie, followed by a scorched figure of Mike. In sheer terror, Gerald hastily discards the tape recorder and speeds away. The concluding scene is a chilling tableau. Mike's spirit remains imprisoned in room 1408. As he roams its confines, he hears the faint, haunting voice of Katie calling him daddy.